can help you with some of the things, some of the questions, I mean, get with any of us. We'll be hanging around here until they kick us out of the room. So I'm going to share a little story while you're all getting situated. And I've been using the X39 since January of 2020. And I decided that I was going to go to a functional medicine MD. I just wanted to do a deep dive into my blood work, the kind of blood work you don't get going to your typical family practitioner. And so this was micronutrients, this was detox pathways, this was deep dives into cardiovascular, into hormones, into insulin levels. I mean, it was a very deep dive. So she's giving me my results a week ago, and she sits down and she starts flipping through my results. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'll be 58 in a couple of months. And she looks at me and she says, I have never in my entire career seen someone over the age of 50 with this spectacular of blood work. And it was amazing. And then she kept saying, look at this level, look at that. Are you kidding me? And so then I said, you know, did you research GHK like I talked about? Yes, I'm very interested. I said, great, here's a patch for the back of your neck. And I'm going to send you a couple videos. So method of operation, simple and easy. I'm going to have now one of my teammates come up, and it's an absolute joy to work with her. Angela Steemack, she started out, she says, as an artist hippie chick. But what you need to know about her is that she then moved into many years into as a business owner with her husband. But she has been for several decades very, very aware when it comes to reverse aging, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to into anything with health. Every time I spend time with Angela, I go home with a new tool. You know, it's all of a sudden I'm spend time with David and Angela and I'm eating apricot seeds every single day. So she has a wealth of knowledge, and she's fabulous at really getting the information out of the practitioners and the scientists that she's worked with over the years. So if you'll help welcome to the stage, Angela Steemack.
Well, I'm so glad that you all decided to stay because there's lots of great information to come. And I'm very excited to welcome back up to the stage, David Schmidt.
Okay.
And David, you said that we should love one another. So can I start with a hug?
Absolutely. Thank you.
And you guys should take 1 minute and hug each other too. I think the energy in the room just went up 5 or 10 degrees. What we want to do this afternoon is, you know, David spoke about a few patches that was part of his journey. We want to take a few minutes and go through the list of the different patches so that just you have a quick overview about what they're about. So if David, you'll take a minute, we'll go through them kind of one at a time. And then we have several people that are going to give a quick testimony about what happened with them for that patch. So the first patch we want to speak about is Energy Enhancer, which was the first one.
Yeah, Energy Enhancer was the first one, and it's designed to increase beta oxidation or fat burning. And we did a study, many of you might know Frank Schallenberger, fantastic medical doctor. He's a world authority on ozone therapy. And by the way, anyone that is going through any type of cancer should definitely use some type of oxidative therapy like ozone therapy as a base or foundational treatment. But I had met Dr. Schallenberger at a trade show, and we hired him to do a clinical study. And what we found was that just within 20 minutes of applying the energy patches, we got fat burning to go up 23%. Since then, of course, we've done many studies on the Energy Enhancer patches. We did a study with indirect calorimetry that showed you could increase the number of calories that you burn by more than 300 calories a day. So some people do lose weight when they use the energy patches, but the main thing about it is that it's able to give you constant levels of energy without crashing. People get to the afternoon, they find out they're not tired or fatigued, and it is an anti-aging product. We did a study with Dr. Chevalier back more than 10 years ago, and we measured light emission off the hands. So what we did was we took people, we put their hands into a chamber that was completely dark. There was a photomultiplier in there, and we measured biophoton emission off the hand before and after energy patches. And long story short, the biophoton emissions improved. So this means the energy patches, they improve the coherence of the cell. We did a study with an RJL, and they volumized the cell. They increase the phase angle and the cell capacitance. So it's a great product for improving energy, but it also has longevity benefits.
Well, I want to tell you the benefit that I got from it.
Okay.
And that is, I'm 70 this year, and I have been exercising twice a week, heavy weightlifting. And so the first patch that somebody had me try was the energy patch, and they said, use it before you exercise. So I put it on before I exercise. I had a wow workout, and I continued to have a wow workout. What was interesting is that I got used to my new normal, which is a wow workout. And then just recently, I forgot to put my patches on before my trainer came over. And I was like dragging butt for the first 10 minutes. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot the patches. So I ran upstairs, put the patches on, came back down, and within minutes, I felt a difference. So when you try something like this, there really is a result that you can feel. So the next one I want to talk about is carnosine. Let's talk about carnosine.
Okay, carnosine. So we talked about carnosine a little bit before. It is a dipeptide, so it's made of 2 amino acids. It's functioned as an antioxidant. And I first became interested in carnosine back in 05, 06. And I had read about a study which was showing that the lifespan of mice could be increased 30 to 40% by supplementing their diet with carnosine. So that was interesting. But the really interesting part is that the mice didn't age, and they stayed young throughout their entire life until right at the end. And as it turned out, years later, it was discovered the reason why this was happening was because the carnosine was protecting the telomeres from degradation. So the carnosine didn't lengthen the telomeres, but it slowed down the degradation of the telomeres for life extension and for also keeping the body young and healthy. In studies that were done with single-celled organisms, it was shown that carnosine could increase the lifespan by 300 to 400%.
That's wow.
That's a wow, and that's going in the direction where we want to go. So carnosine is one of the most valuable nutrients that most people aren't using for weightlifting. We know that carnosine is anabolic. It's a mild anabolic, and it'll increase strength and stamina. We did a clinical study with Dr. Lisa Tully, who's a pharmacologist, and we showed the anabolic benefits of carnosine. And as I also mentioned, carnosine has definite effects on cognitive function. So even if, let's say, you're over the age of 60, you say, well, maybe I'm too old. No. We found that doesn't matter. You can still reclaim things that you lost to time. So carnosine is wonderful in terms of improving the health of the heart, the brain, and improving strength and stamina.
I'll have to tell you that in terms of the brain function, I really noticed the carnosine over the last year of using it.
Yeah.
It wasn't right away, but I could tell the difference over a period of time. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm remembering that.
Yep, awesome.
Glutathione. Glutathione is very exciting nutrient in our body and very important. So a glutathione patch.
So glutathione is something that, especially because of COVID, we should all be taking. Now, I'm not going to make a claim about our glutathione patch. I will make it about NAC, so we can make the distinction. There was a clinical study that was done showing that NAC in elevating glutathione is an effective treatment for protecting some of the most severe side effects of COVID. Now, 6 weeks after that study came out, the FDA started to ban NAC. And that's why you started to see it disappearing from shelves. Amazon pulled it, Sprouts pulled it, and then, this happened about a year later. So five to 6 weeks after the study came out, the FDA started to send warning letters to companies that were selling NAC. Now, bear in mind, NAC had been on the market since 1963. And it was obviously deemed as being safe. And the FDA said, well, we want to go back and review the safety of NAC, so we should take it off the market. But fortunately, they didn't enforce it, so you can still get NAC today. So for example, Life Extension, which is located here in Florida, they still sell NAC. But in any case, what it shows is that NAC in elevating glutathione, and now we can talk about the glutathione patch. The advantage of our patch is that it elevates glutathione very rapidly. And glutathione is ubiquitous. It's found throughout the human body. So it is found as the principal antioxidant that's going to protect the hearing. Years ago, I was down at Army Aeromedical, and they were interested in finding better ways to elevate glutathione because hearing loss is the #1 disability in the military. You know, no surprise there because of all the loud noises. And if we keep our glutathione levels elevated, we can protect our hearing. Glutathione is involved in detoxification. So you find very high concentrations of glutathione in the liver, and it'll bind to things like mercury and other metals and help facilitate detox. Lifespan is directly correlated to glutathione. So there's tens of thousands of studies that show the benefits of glutathione, but one of those is that if you keep your glutathione levels elevated, you can extend lifespan and also the health span. Centenarians, for example, always have elevated levels of glutathione.
So if I want to live to 120, I need glutathione.
Well, we want to do better to 120, but the goal to getting people to 120 is that they can get to 500 or whatever age they want to get to. And keep in mind, you know, when we're talking about this, we don't want people to be 120 and look like they're 120 because we want to get there by resetting the cells and getting them to divide like younger, healthier cells. So it means we're really getting to 120 being a 30-something.
That sounds good to me. And I think we have a quick testimonial from Barry.
Yeah, we have a little interesting one because as you're saying, glutathione can do a lot and almost anywhere. So Barry, why don't you share what you did after you saw Dr. Nicholas talk about glutathione?
Yeah, it was a similar meeting to this, and they were doing a Q&A, and somebody asked, you know, stomach issues, GI. And that's for me the mornings, a little upset, sour stomach. And said, well, I'll give it a shot. First morning, put it on. It was almost instantaneous. It literally was relief, no more gas, no more bloating. And to Connie's probably like no more burping.
Yay for Connie. Okay, so I don't
That's
think
a
we
win-win,
have,
yeah.
I don't think we have anybody telling a testimonial about the next one, but I'd love to hear about the Aculife.
Aculife. Oh, okay. So Aculife is effectively the same as IceWave. So we had to brand it separately for regulatory purposes. This is because of some quirky rules within the FDA.
So what is Aculife for?
So Aculife is for pain relief, and we do clinical studies on animals. And I am an animal lover. My daughter and I, we have a Rottweiler and we have a Australian Shepherd. And so we care very much about the health and safety of animals. In fact, what I often say is we experiment on humans first before we ever do the studies on the animals, just to make sure they're okay. But yeah, this is all about pain relief. As a matter of fact, the very first published study that we ever had was from Dr. Lauren Durack, a veterinary acupuncturist. and that was on 138 horses. And so what she would do is palpate or apply pressure at a point of pain, and then the horse would kick, and then you would apply the Aculife patches, and then the horse would not kick anymore. We later followed this up, and by the way, that was on that study, 136 out of 138 horses got pain relief.
And horses don't lie.
Horses don't lie. We also followed that up. We did a study on using an electroacuoscope on horses. This was fun because we did this out at a racetrack in California. And later on, I found that the doctor that I was working with bet money on the horse that we patched, and it won. And I didn't think about that at the time, so I lost out. Yeah, so what we would do is take the electroacuoscope, and then we would measure the tissue conductivity. So when we're talking about pain, it is really, we often get asked the question, are the patches covering up the pain? And they are not. It does not act like an analgesic. So it's not like a Tylenol or an aspirin that's blocking the pain. Instead, what we're doing is improving the flow of bioelectrical energy through the tissue to normalize the tissue conductivity. So when there's an injury and when we get fluid into the injury, it's going to change the distribution of the electrolytes, and the tissue resistance could go very high or very low. This is going to disrupt the ability of to conduct energy through the nerves, and hence people will experience this as a blockage and pain, and the brain interprets it as pain. So when you apply the patches, what we were able to measure with the Acuscope is just within 10 seconds, there was an immediate change in tissue conductivity. And over a period of about 20 minutes, the tissue conductivity begins to normalize, and hence there's a reduction in pain. So we measured this both through palpation, through measuring tissue conductivity, and we also did it with thermal imaging. So it's completely objective.
That's cool. And so the Aculife is specifically designed for horses, is that correct?
Well, we did studies on both horses and dogs.
Okay.
And again, it would be the same thing. We did the study with Dr. Dean Clark. We took a thermal image to see where the pain was. We would apply the patches, and then 20 minutes later, take another thermal image and see the reduction in inflammation. So over the years, we've had people apply patches to all kinds of animals, you know, birds, cats, elephants, I mean, all kinds of things. We did the studies on horses and dogs.
Okay, awesome. Let's see, let's talk about IceWave next. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. IceWave, because it's kind of in the same line as Energy, Aculife, and IceWave, right?
Yes, so IceWave is going to be functionally the same as Aculife, and we've done over a dozen studies just on IceWave. The one that's my favorite is the one we did over in General de Santé Hospital in Lyon, France, with Dr. Pierre Volkmann. So Dr. Volkmann is one of the top pain management medical doctors in France, and he was gracious enough to allow us to do this study. So I found, I don't know about all of you, but I found over the years, the French can be quite skeptical. So we had about 6 medical doctors that were at this presentation, and they said, well, this all sounds nice, but does it really work? So I said, okay, well, can you give me some patients in the hospital to patch? So Dr. Volkmann brought over a woman that had been his patient for 20 years. And the lowest he ever got her pain was to a 6 out of 10. And so I patched her, and 2 minutes later, she went to a 0. And so he was walking her around the hospital. Then they brought another person. Over the course of the hour, I patched over 30 people, and 30 out of 30 people were out of pain. So IceWave, if you know how to use it properly, produces 50 to 100% relief of pain in only 2 to 3 minutes. It's very easy to use, but it's the most complicated patch to use out of all of them. Most of the patches, you just put it on and it works. With pain, it's a little bit different. It depends on where the pain is, what's causing it, and then you have enough information to patch it.
Right. And I think we have somebody who wants to share their story with IceWave.
Hello. I had an injury back in 2018 and my knee swelled up to the size of a baseball, not a basketball. It was pretty big. But I had constant pain with it. And I had gone to see 4 orthopedic doctors who told me that it was arthritis, I needed injections, I had to have a knee replacement, and the cartilage would never grow back. So fast forward to 2020, I guess, 21, whatever it is. And a friend of ours sent us some of the patches because she had heard that I was in pain for about 6 weeks straight. My knee would keep popping out. And we were sitting at the kitchen table and I put the patch on and I looked at my husband 10 seconds later and I said, Tommy, the pain's gone. And he's like, get out of here. I'm like, no, I'm serious. So I ice waved for 5 weeks straight. And after 5 weeks, the pain never came back again. And the inflammation went down and the cartilage started growing back. And I now have full range of motion back after walking with a walker.
Wow.
So it was
Awesome.
pretty amazing.
Awesome. Wow. How about Aeon?
Okay, so this is a really fun product. I'm going to tell a quick story about how this
That'd be
was
great.
developed. So the Aeon patch is a broad spectrum anti-inflammatory, but I'm going to tell you something about it that we usually don't talk about because it folds into the conversation of anti-aging and age reversal. So I was at a party in California with a group of scientists. This was at Suzanne Summers' house, and I was in a few of her books. And one of the doctors that were there, I was having a conversation with him about longevity. And we all, of course, had this interest. And he told me about this experiment that he was doing. And what he was doing was injecting bees with a specific peptide. So he had made the observation that the queen bee will live 50 to 60 times longer than a worker bee. And what he found is that the reason for this wasn't genetic, it was the diet. And it's because the queen bee is eating the royal jelly. And that there's a peptide in the royal jelly that's responsible for the queen's longevity. So he thought, okay, let me inject this peptide into the worker bee. And he found out the worker bees were living 5 to 6 times longer just on one injection of this peptide.
Oh my gosh.
So he tried this in human beings, and he found that you had to be tied to an IV bag and get for 20 hours a day because the peptide had such a short half-life. So I thought, okay, now as it turns out, this peptide is naturally produced in our liver, but it declines with age. So I designed the Aeon patch to elevate the peptide. We did a blood study and we found the patch was elevating the peptide. And then we wanted to know, okay, how is this working? So we did some blood tests and we found out that by elevating this peptide, it will decrease levels of C-reactive proteins, inflammatory cytokines, homocysteine, lipid peroxides, fibrinogen. It acts as this broad spectrum anti-inflammatory. So I was sitting in a bar in Missouri with a doctor, and we were talking about the clinical studies, and we were saying, we can't tell people what this patch actually does. We'll get shut down by the FDA. What do we tell people? And he said, well, it reduces stress. Why not tell people it reduces stress? I said, oh, that's great. That's what we'll do. So that's why we market it for stress reduction. We did a study with Dr. Tom Budzinski, which showed that within seconds, it starts to balance out the autonomic nervous system. So if people are, for example, primarily in a sympathetic drive, it will bring them more back to center. If they're more parasympathetically driven, again, it brings them more back to center. So it doesn't take somebody in a sympathetic mode and drop them into parasympathetic. That wouldn't be good either, right? So we decided to focus on the stress reduction. But in practical terms, we always use the Aeon patch for pain relief in part of our demos. So we would get 30 in a meeting of, a couple hundred people, we might get 20 or 30 people on stage. The first thing we do is put the Aeon patch on the back of their neck. And many times that was enough to get complete relief of pain. If not, we just proceeded on with the IceWave demo.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that with the Aeon patch, I can be a queen bee.
I think what I would say, I think what we would say is that the mechanism of Aeon, what's so fascinating about it is that it does increase intracellular antioxidants like SOD. It does manage the inflammatory process. And we know aging is so closely associated with oxidative and inflammatory stress, amongst other things. So from our perspective, it will certainly improve the quality of life. As far as lengthening lifespan, that remains to be seen. We're not depending on Aeon. That's why we forged on with other stuff.
Okay, so partially queen bee.
Partially.
And we have a woman who is Sybil who wants to share with us.
Hi, I'm Sybil Vasquez. I was a certified mental health professional years back, but I was later disabled in a car accident 10 years ago, and I haven't been able to do much but keep my feet up in a recliner for a long time, avoiding pain, and I was too poor on disability to provide for myself well. But things changed, and I tried these patches, and I started to improve, and a friend came from another state to help me because I hadn't been able to clean my house or unpack boxes, and she told me she had a bad knee for 2 years, and the only patch I had with me at the time was the Aeon, and that night her pain went away until now. So 5 months later, she called me and said, I need to get those patches because my knee pain came back.
That's awesome.
Wow. Okay, so silent nights has to do with sleep. Sleep's vital in terms of anti-aging.
Yes. So let's see. Do we have any men here that are interested in elevating their testosterone levels? One or two. Okay, that's good. Okay, all right, that's good. Just a
The
few.
rest of them are lying.
They're lying. If they're not raising, they're definitely lying, right? So,
I'm seeing the women raising hands is what I've actually been seeing.
so let's see. When you use silent nights, you elevate melatonin. So we've done a number of studies on this. We did a study with Dr. Melinda Connor. We did another study with Dr. Norm Shealy. We did a study with Thornton Streeter. And so what we found was that silent nights was a means to naturally elevate melatonin and improve the length and the quality of sleep. So the study we did with Dr. Shealy was to take people that were only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night and see if we could get them into a normal range. And we found in that group that we could increase the length of sleep over 60%. So that was an enormously
That's impressive. Yes.
very impressive results, and the quality of sleep was improving too. It was deeper. So generally, when people are using silent nights, they're struggling with their sleep. The type of things that we recommend is, don't have any products with caffeine after 3 o'clock. Don't eat too late because the metabolism can keep you awake. Make sure the room is dark. There's a couple of sleeping hacks, like sleeping with a pair of socks or keeping your feet warm with a blanket. These can all contribute to improvement in sleep. And for those of us that like to look at our iPad or iPhone or computer before we go to bed, and you can't turn your brain off, there's amino acids like taurine, which won't help you sleep, but they will help relax the nervous system. And there's some other benefits of taurine, which are kind of interesting, but just don't get your taurine from Red Bull. That'd be a mistake. But so the good news is that for those of us that are experiencing a problem with sleep, there are many, many tools, and silent nights is one of them. And actually Aeon, I probably use Aeon more often than silent nights at this point. I just found it relaxes and calms my nervous system, and I like that.
Well, that makes sense. And so we have somebody that wants to share about her experience. Victoria.
Hello, my name is Victoria Ochoa, and for those of you that don't know me, I love health, and I really believe in deep sleep as a pillar of health. As a yoga instructor, I learned really good tools to be able to sleep. However, I made the mistake. One day, my mind was spinning, I couldn't fall asleep, and so I started to look at my phone. And all my life I've been, I need to sleep 8 hours, and I always count. I'm going to sleep at 11, I can wake up at 7. I'm gonna go to sleep at 1, I have something to do tomorrow, how many hours of sleep am I getting? And so sleep is super important. I'm all wired up, I can't sleep, I keep on counting the hours. Darn, I have to get up. I'm only gonna have 5 hours of sleep, what am I gonna do? And then I remembered I had this, the silent nights, and I put one on my left temple. And I don't know if any of you have gone through surgery where the anesthesiologist is saying, count to 3. And then by the time you count to 3, you're passed out. That's what I felt. I had tried meditation. I was trying to go to sleep, doing all the things I know. I could not. I put the patch on, boom, I was out. It was incredible. Yeah.
So to come
Thank you.
full circle on
Yeah.
that one comment, when we sleep and get more sleep, we can optimize our hormone levels, right? For both men and women. But there was a study that was showing that increasing the length of sleep, let's say above 7 hours per night, could increase a man's testosterone levels by over 30%. So it's one piece in the hormone puzzle for men.
So sleep is very important, and silent nights can help.
Yes,
Awesome.
for both men and women. Yep.
Great. SP6. That's the one I don't really quite understand.
Yeah, so SP6, there's some confusion about this, that this is for weight loss, and it's really for appetite control. So we came out with this product as a means to help regulate blood sugar and control cravings. And so it should be used in conjunction with proper diet, exercise, nutrition, supplements for those people that are interested in losing weight. And of course, now we have our X49 patch, which we showed directly helps to metabolize fat for energy. But if you're having an issue with cravings, SP6 is a good product to help get cravings under control.
Wonderful. And do we have Priscilla to share with us SP6?
Thank you. Yeah, so SP6 for me, I used it for, I've been using it for 17 months now, but in the beginning, I tend to have sugar cravings, and I'm a health person too. So I know that if I stay away from sugar, I won't crave it, but I don't stay away from sugar because I like chocolate. So anyways, I specifically got SP6 to help me with that. And I was astounded that even now, I don't crave it. I don't think about it. It isn't on my mind, and I'm eating healthier and feeling better.
You know, there's a funny thing about chocolate. There was a clinical study that was done on milk chocolate showing that it was an effective treatment for diabetes, but the study was funded by Nestle. That's actually true. I'm not making that up. But I did meet a scientist that I had dinner with, and we were talking about cacao. And he was also interested in longevity, extending human lifespan. And, you know, in Mexico, cacao beans were treated like gold. And his belief was that there was a peptide in cacao that could dramatically extend life. I'm not sure that he ever figured out what it was, but we certainly know that cacao has many, many health benefits. For men, it can cause a reduction in swelling in the prostate. Of course, it's loaded with antioxidants, polyphenols, so nothing wrong with cacao.
Okay, so Alaveda.
Alaveda. Oh, you know, one other thing about cacao. One other thing about cacao. Cacao can support stem cell activity in the body. There's some interesting clinical studies on that. So for those of you that love chocolate, I am a chocolate lover. As a matter of fact, one of my friends owns a chocolate factory. I love chocolate, and as long as you're having something, let's say 72% and above with cacao, don't feel guilty about it. That would be my advice.
That would be great.
That would be great.
Okay,
Yeah.
Elevata.
Okay, so Alavita. So Alavita is another product where we don't talk about everything that it does for a variety of issues. We don't want people making claims about the product. But Alavita is designed to elevate epithalamine. The common name of this is epitalon. And so this peptide was discovered by a Russian scientist by the name of Kavinsin. And he's been doing work in age reversal and longevity. And he extracted a number of interesting peptides from the thymus and from the pineal. But epithalamine is one of the master peptides. And so what he found was that this peptide could regulate oxidative stress and also improve immune function. As a matter of fact, in human beings and in animals, when they're given injections of this peptide, it can increase the activity of the white blood cells by about 3 to 5 times above normal. And this is in treating disease.
That's not 3 to 5%, that's 3 to 5 times.
3 to 5 times more
Wow.
activity
Okay,
in treating a specific disease, which, you know, we won't make any claims about because we didn't use the patch that way. But what we did do is to observe that by using the patch, it reduces oxidative stress. So this is important because as we age, we start to slow down in our ability to control or manage oxidative or inflammatory stress. Now, we need oxidative chemicals. Most notably, when people get cancer, it's because their immune system is failing. They have less immune cells. And what the immune cells are doing is creating oxidative chemicals. So these will be things like hydrogen peroxide, ozone, superoxide, the hydroxyl ion. These things will all destroy cancer cells, viruses, bacteria on contact. If you see the superoxide molecule come in contact with a virus, the virus literally explodes on contact. It's like goes off like dynamite. So we need these oxidative chemicals, but over time, our immune system kind of slows down. And if the antioxidant system in our body fails, we can't control the oxidative stress, and the oxidative chemicals damage healthy tissue. So we found that by elevating epithalamine, it reduced the elevated oxidative stress. And one of the benefits to this is that it protects the collagen matrix in the skin. So we thought from a marketing perspective, what we would do is use this as a way to improve the health of the skin from the inside out. So use Alavita, it protects the skin, and that way when you take our natural topicals, the day and night cream, that can repair the skin from the outside in.
yeah, I love both the topicals and the Elevata, and I think we have a testimonial from Connie.
Yeah, and I had a question. Typically, you wear this patch at night, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, big dreams, big dreams when you wear this patch. But what we noticed is Barry and I had the good fortune of meeting David at his labs at the time in San Diego, and he was gracious enough to give us all of the patches. So I became addicted to all the patches. And Alavita was really interesting because besides the sleep and the deep dreams, about 2 weeks in, I noticed, again, we live in Arizona, I wasn't putting lotion on my body. I was still doing my face, my décolleté, I'm a girl, but I wasn't needing it on my body. I wasn't dry anymore. And I knew it really worked when I ran out of the patches. And 2 weeks after that, I was slathering myself with lotion again, hence getting back on Alavita and cutting down on my expensive lotions.
Yep, good deal.
So it kind of paid for itself. So Nirvana, let's talk about Nirvana.
So Nirvana is interesting. I've been in 50 countries over the past 20 years or so. I've been very, very blessed to go to some of the places that I've been. And in my travels, I've met a number of doctors and scientists. And I met a scientist in France, and he had a very interesting story. He's a brilliant scientist, and he is a scuba diver. And he was scuba diving, and he happened to notice that there was this type of seaweed that was white. And so he thought, I'm going to take some of this back to my lab and study it. And he found that there were biochemicals that were in the seaweed that were pulling calcium out of the water. And he thought, okay, we might be able to use this. So one of the things he did was he created a gel that dentists will apply. I know we have a dentist here. That dentists will apply and to hold the gel in place, and it regrows teeth and it regrows bone. So that's actually a commercial product. Another thing that he wanted to do with this was use it in conjunction with people that have osteoporosis, but there was a problem. And the problem was that it took 9 months before you could start to see any type of benefit. The absorption of this nutrient into the body was very, very slow. So I thought, okay, maybe what we can do is design a patch to complement this nutrient complex that he came up with and improve the rate of absorption. So one of the benefits was that he was taking people that were in a early stage of depression, and after 6 to 9 months with this supplement, they were getting out. When we combined it with our patch technology, we got statistical significance in only 3 weeks. So we showed that using the patch, it could act as an effective delivery system for nutrients. Now, what the combination of Nirvana does is it elevates beta endorphins. So beta endorphins are these feel-good chemicals, but the other things you'd want to know about it is that beta endorphins are about 25 to 30 times more powerful than morphine. So there are people that use Nirvana today for relieving pain. Now, we have Aeon and we have IceWave for very, very rapid pain relief. Is there any other benefits of Nirvana? Well, as it turns out, when you elevate beta endorphins and you keep them elevated, it turns on collagen production in the fibroblasts. So using Nirvana over a period of time will help to reduce lines and wrinkles.
Okay, so I've heard that people use like the Elevata and the Nirvana at night.
Yep.
And they would use it for like 6 or 8 hours and use the same patch again the next night. Is that a
You
good idea or
can.
a bad idea?
We can't make the recommendation for sanitary purposes. So yeah, once you remove the patch, we have to recommend discard it. But if
Mhm.
you're applying it to clean skin without any cuts or anything, you can get at least 12 hours of use out of a patch.
Okay.
Yep.
So it sounds like a great combination.
Oh yeah.
And I think Dr. Pam had a testimonial around Nirvana.
I may have a question for you, David, though. Does it increase serotonin and dopamine?
So dopamine levels go up with Nirvana. We haven't measured serotonin, but dopamine levels go up.
Okay, one of my associates, one of my distributors, her daughter is a medical student in St. Kitts, and she was on medication for mood disorder and, you know, these uptake reducers. But anyway, and she started on the Nirvana patch, and it certainly her mood was so good, and she was able to concentrate better on her studies and all that. She asked her mom, can I give it to my classmate? Because she's also on these medications and she's doing better as well. So I have a shameless plug here for Nirvana. If you're ever down, feeling blue, unable to sleep or even poop, stiff and sluggish, with mental decline, with no indication of the passage of time, can't tell your arm from a banana, reach for the patch called Nirvana.
We got to get that published.
That was great. I loved it. Yeah.
Okay, last patch. It was the newest patch, X49, which is a great adjunct to X39. I understand the two of them work wonderful together, but maybe if you want to talk about just the X49 itself.
Sure. So X49 is designed to elevate AHK. So I was originally interested in peptides that could manipulate alanine metabolism in the brain because I think there's good reason to believe that diseases like ALS, Parkinson's disease, neurodegenerative conditions in the brain are potentially treated through manipulating alanine pathways. From our perspective, we're looking at ways to improve cognitive function. And certainly we've shown with X39 and with Carnosine that we're able to do that. So then as you look at what other symptoms of aging can we address, it seemed natural to go to AHK because we had already put so much time and money into studying GHK, so the development of the patch should be relatively simple. And it was in comparison, didn't take us 10 years, right? So yeah, so AHK, the important thing to know about it is that it's based on alanine. So for any of you that are vegans or vegetarians, you may not be getting, and you're probably not getting enough alanine in your diet. So alanine is principally going to be found in things like meat, poultry, fish, dairy products. Now, fortunately, beta alanine is a very common supplement. It's used by athletes, bodybuilders to increase carnosine levels for improving strength and stamina. Beta alanine also has the interesting property, as does carnosine, of helping to regulate lactic acid levels so they can help people recover a little bit more quickly. I always thought that for beta alanine, there might be some interesting research there in cancer therapy, since cancer is characterized by excess production of lactic acid. But in any case, if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you might want to consider taking a gram or so a day of beta alanine to make sure that you're getting enough. But what we found in our studies is that when you use X49, it elevates AHK-Cu. We've measured that in blood. And the most profound benefits are in increasing strength, stamina, and reducing body fat. So we have some images. I didn't bring them with me today. I've done it, of course, on other webinars that we've done and at convention. It's very dramatic when you see the body scans at how much an elderly population improves in only 8 weeks without any type of modification in diet.
Yeah, I know it's over the age of about 60, I think it's very difficult to build muscle mass and
Right.
bone density. And, you know, the research that you were showing and the improvements that happened on the X49 within 2 months in people over that age was remarkable.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, so there's an interesting phenomena here. So back in, let's say, the 70s, bodybuilders used to talk about this thing called muscle memory. So bodybuilders would prepare for contests, and then they would have an off season. They wouldn't exercise as hard. Their muscles would atrophy. And they would say that once they got back into exercise again, what they had lost would come back very quickly, and then making gains above that would be a little bit more difficult. So they started to refer to this phenomena as muscle memory. So for years, doctors and scientists said, oh, that's just in their head, right? That doesn't exist. But actually what was found is that there were attachment points for stem cells on the muscle fibers, and that these attachment points never went away throughout your entire life. So this is great news, right? Because people can lose, let's say, up to 1% of muscle per year after the age of 35. And then, of course, by the time people become 70, they can be very frail and weak if they're not eating properly or they're not doing resistance training. So the good news here is that if we can mobilize the stem cells with the AHK-Cu, we can get more rapid gains in muscle growth because the attachment sites for the stem cells are already there in the muscle fiber.
That's pretty amazing. But it's very exciting to know that as I age, I can continue to build muscle and to get stronger, which I'm very excited about. We have one last testimonial on X49.
So X49 has really upped my quality of life quite a bit. And again, I've been on X39 for over 17 months. So when was it Nova, when X49 came out, I was right there on the computer ordering it. And so what I do is I play softball. I am 61. I started at age 50. I just love to move and to play and to have lots of fun. So not being humble, I am just a mediocre softball lady out there. And so everybody knows me. I've been playing with these ladies for 10 years. So getting the X49, the first thing within 3 days I notice is an awareness, like like, how could I be more aware? X39 was extraordinary for me in that. And now here, X49 was another level. But as I've worn it, I wear it every single day. Within a month of wearing X49, my softball, it just so happened we were on a break. So we start playing every Wednesday night, and I'm back on the ball field, and I hit a home run. Now you have to know, I don't hit home runs. I'm more of a runner. I'm a fielder. So all through my 50s, I run for other women. So meaning if they're injured, they hit the ball, they get to first, and then I would take over and run. 2 years ago, I had to stop that because I slide into second base and I jam my knee every Wednesday night. So I had to stop running for other women because I'd injured my knee and I had to wear a brace every single game. So two things, again, I came back to playing ball and I realized I don't have my brace and I didn't even feel like I needed my brace on. So I just play my game. I hit my home run and I'm like, wow, that was pretty cool. So now it's the following Wednesday and I'm playing ball and I'm running out there in the field, no brace, and I hit another home run. And I'm telling you, we're into the fifth week. Now I've played with these women for all these years. My team, I hit my fifth home run and they are like, WTF, what are you on? And I said, funny, you should ask. Now I've told them all about X39 for over a year. I've told them I've been on this X, but with the X49, I now run again at 61 for all the other women. I have now gone on to tournament ball. So I play in a 60s women tournament team. We play on the weekend. We play 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 games a day in the Florida heat. It is unbelievable. And I just can't even believe that I can do that now. And not only do that, I excel. I am still hitting my home runs. I am still running and playing a whole nother level. And I just qualified to play in the Huntsman's game, which is it's like the Senior Olympics in Utah. And I qualified for the 60s women team.
Woohoo!
Wow.
I do have a question. So some people are going to ask, we've talked about when can you, should you wear these together? Can you wear one during the day, one at night? What would be some definite recommendations, or is it whatever you want to do?
In our studies, we have people using the patches principally during the day. So if you want to have X39 on the back of your neck and X49 below your belly button during the day, that would certainly be fine. For people that are suffering in pain, if they wanted to use, let's say, X39 and IceWave during the day, that's a good combination. Aeon is a patch you can use during the day or in the evening. One product that I wouldn't recommend using at night is glutathione. There's an exception to this, but because glutathione produces a detox effect, if you use it at night, you may wake up in the morning with a headache. So that would be the only patch I'd say don't use at night. But other than that, they're pretty flexible.
Great. So we have some time now. That what I'm going to do is I've got lots of questions here, and I want to try and move through them as quickly as possible to get to everybody that we can.
Okay.
So the first one is a brilliant question by a woman who's obviously new here today, and thank you for giving this to me. What do I do with the patch on the back of my neck? So what is she supposed to do? How long is she supposed to wear it? When does she take it off?
Okay. Generally, you apply the patches in the morning, you remove them at night. So you'll have them on your body, let's say 8 to 12 hours. Because the patches trap body heat, you don't want to leave them on too long. let's say 18 or 24 hours, because number one, it could irritate the skin. And then number two, there's a phenomena in phototherapy called attenuation. So what that means, if you overstimulate the body with light, eventually the body stops responding. So yeah, you put it on in the morning, take it off at night.
Okay, so if I accidentally wear it for 24 hours and I go, oh my gosh, and take it off, then should I wait for another 12 hours to put another one on?
I would skip a day and then restart.
Okay.
Yep.
So I had a couple of people ask a question around the FDA and how does the FDA interact with this company, or do they, or why not?
Oh yeah, no, they definitely do. We get visits from the FDA about once every 2 years. No, it's a normal thing. We have our facilities registered with the FDA. We're recognized as a general wellness product. So this is a category that the FDA started back in 2015. And it's for products that improve the flow of energy and the quality of life, where those products would not normally fit into being a class 1, class 2, or class 3 device. We get yearly inspections at our facility over in Ireland. We're registered with the Irish Medicine Board, and we're ISO certified. So yeah, there's no
Great.
FDA
Okay.
issues. Yeah.
Why wear it? Let's see, we just talked about that. Would it be more effective to wear it at night versus during the day, because the body is repairing itself at night? So,
Well, it's an interesting question. In the studies that we've done and for the examples that we used, those people were using the patch during the day. So this gets a little bit into the half-life of copper peptide, which is relatively difficult to determine, by the way. So for example, the half-life of glutathione is about 7 minutes. So after let's say you got an IV of glutathione levels come down after about an hour. With copper peptide, it's more complicated than that. So we found, as a practical matter, using the patch during the day produced the results. But if people wanted to try it at night, there's certainly no reason why they couldn't.
okay. Stacking patches. We've heard that people will put one patch on top of the other. They'll stack it like a stack of pancakes.
Yeah, the patch
Is that
stackers.
the patch stackers?
Yeah.
Okay, is that a good idea, or is does that make it less effective?
So patch stacking, to my knowledge, was started by Dr. Dennis Lobstein in California. And Dr. Dennis is a great guy. He's really, really brilliant doctor. And he was the one that started to do that. From our perspective, it's anecdotal. And what that means is we haven't done any clinical studies stacking patches on top of one another. So I can't give you a scientifically accurate response as to whether or not it works or doesn't work. Anecdotally, doctors use it and they like it, but we haven't done any studies with it.
Okay, fair answer. And this one probably Connie would know. People are wanting to know if they can get a copy of the PowerPoint or of today's presentation.
I don't know about the PowerPoint, but I will tell you that we recorded. We're hopeful that we'll be able to post it in our Live Younger YouTube channel, but that remains to be seen. And I'm not the technical person.
Okay.
I have given this presentation before, so you would find it on our YouTube channel. So if you just go to our website and you go all the way to the bottom, to the footer, you'll see a link there to our YouTube page and our YouTube channel. And you could find a similar presentation or webinar. If you're just looking for informational purposes, that's all fine. But if you're going to build the business, I wouldn't recommend you use this PowerPoint, because you'll be complicating your business and you'll be making people think you have to be a doctor to be part of the company. So just use the tools that we have, use the website, use the videos. Just have people wear the patch, experience the benefits, and that's the best way to build a business. Keep it simple.
Yes, absolutely. Which is why we talk about leading with X39, because it's has such a wide effect on the body that people are going to get results without, even if it's over a period of time, and then they can get to explore all these other wonderful things that we're talking about today. When wearing the patch on clothing, does the fabric have to be natural, like 100% cotton, or does it matter?
I would say by and large, it doesn't matter. So let's say the adhesive that we use is hypoallergenic. It's made by 3M. So 1 in 10,000 people are going to be allergic to the adhesive. So in that case, they can apply it to the clothing. Now, I'd actually recommend they apply it to the inside of the clothing. And then that way, the top of the patch is exposed to the skin and it's going to work just fine. If you apply it to the top of the clothing, it's also fine, but you're principally going to be getting treated with the infrared coming off the patch and not so much the visible light. So it's better if you apply it on the inside of the clothing. But I can't say, we haven't done a study on it, but I can't think of a good example where what the fabric is made of would make a tremendous difference.
So it doesn't seem to matter.
By and large, no. There could be an exception, but by and large, no.
Okay, so wearing more than one patch at a time, does that increase the process? So like, let's say you were wearing 2X39s and 2X49s. Does that increase how quickly things happen?
So it depends. Our studies are on just one patch. So just using one patch, you get all the benefits that I represented in the clinical studies. Now, for using more than one patch is a point of diminishing returns with a few very important exceptions. So let's say that you're working with someone that has pain and they've been suffering with chronic pain, it's systemic, it's all over their body. Then I would say that's a good example where you would use 2 sets of IceWave, one on the lower torso and then one on the upper torso. So for example, on the bottom of the feet and maybe up on the neck and shoulders. With glutathione, that's another glaring example where using more than one can produce some extraordinary results. So let's say, for example, someone had a sore throat, and we're not going to claim we're treating the sore throat. But what we found through practical experience is that applying 3 glutathione patches across the throat. So let's say when someone has a sore throat, these points over here are very sensitive. 1, 2, 3 glutathione patches, within 2-3 minutes, the sore throat has diminished very significantly. I won't travel without the glutathione patches. I don't want to make any medical claims, but I had an infection that I got on the top of my foot a number of years ago in Mexico. I was there for a LifeWave meeting. I had these fancy new sandals that I bought, and the fancy new sandals cut the top of my foot. And it got infected. I wasn't paying attention to it. And I thought, I'm here in Mexico, and I do not want to go into a hospital in Mexico. And what am I going to do? So I surrounded did this based on prior experience. I put 3 glutathione patches around the infection, and within a few hours, it was down about 80%. And after 24 hours, it was gone. So through practical experience, we've seen the multiple glutathione patches have a benefit. But by and large, I'd say with X39, X49, from what we currently know, 1 patch is enough.
Okay. Can the X39 help improve lower back issues from somebody who's been doing construction work for many years?
Yeah, so we found through practical experience that X39 and Aeon are extraordinarily effective at helping to reduce chronic pain. So the way that I would apply it is X39 at the back of the neck and then Aeon at the lower point of the back where the pain is. Reason for this is that stem cells are attracted to inflammation, but in chronic conditions, the elevated levels of inflammation will kill off the stem cells and make it much more difficult to heal. So you've got to get the inflammation under control. There's a variety of ways of doing that. In the patch world, we would use the Aeon patch. So Aeon at the point of injury or pain, X39 to activate the stem cells, and that combination is going to work extremely well.
Sounds exciting. How about, this is a very interesting question. How can the patches help stem cells if you're over the age of 75 and you don't have any stem cells left?
That's a great question. You saw from the brain scan that we did on the woman that was 77, she had a remarkable benefit only within 3 weeks. Well, the answer to this is that copper peptide is very powerful as a gene modulator. So it's going to reset cells to a younger state. In the telomere experiments that I was referring to, some of the best results that we got were people over the age of 60. And we had a woman that was 68 who had virtually no telomeres. And we were able to, she had 16 years of age reversal in 6 months.
Wow. I mean, so, you know.
So her telomeres regenerated over 16% in just a 6-month window. And that was an example where there was almost nothing there. Other studies outside of LifeWave have shown that, that you can regenerate the telomeres with people over the age of 80 when there's no more telomeres there. So with the stem cells, it's something very, very similar. The copper peptide acts as what's called a Yamanaka factor, meaning it can take cells and revert them into a more primitive state. So for example, what that means is when you elevate the copper peptide levels in the skin, it reverts the skin stem cells back over into pluripotent stem cells. And a study that was in Korea, what it showed is that these stem cells made their way into the blood and increased the rate of regeneration in all of the major organs. So even if the body runs out of stem cells, by resetting the genome, you can make new stem cells.
So it's activating it from several different levels, not just the,
Right.
creating more activity in the stem cells you have. It's doing other things as well.
It's doing way more.
Cool. Let's see, if you take the patch, so this is if you put the patch on and then 10 minutes later it comes off, or you took it off or whatever, have you deactivated it, or can you just put it right back on and it'll keep going?
You can put it back on without an issue. The patches will last at least 12 hours. So if you took it off after a few hours and then wanted to reattach it with, let's say, medical tape, you could do it.
Okay.
Yep.
Best patches for helping to support shrinking of any kind of lumps or nodules.
Well, it would depend on what that was. And also, we don't treat medical conditions. Actually, for treating like a lump or a nodule, I'd actually recommend a oxidative therapy like ozone. Vitamin C drips can help to a degree, but I'd really, for breaking up nodules, I would definitely recommend ozone therapy. And fortunately in Florida, there's a number of practitioners here that will do it.
Right, that's
Yep.
a great thing. If people have different kind of neurological issues where they've had trouble with nerves that need to be regenerated, is there something that can help with that process?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we've done that with pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. Our unit is not on the market yet. If you were to research copper peptide, you'll find that there are studies showing that it does induce neurogenesis, meaning it does regrow damaged nerves. And we have a couple of anecdotal studies about that. But what we found is that pulsed electromagnetic field therapy can regenerate nerves. And there is a procedure that was pioneered in Israel where you take people, put them in a hyperbaric chamber, and over a period of 30 days, as you increase and decrease the amount of oxygen in the blood, what that does is it causes the stem cells to come out of the bone marrow, and you get about a 4 to 6 time increase in circulating stem cells. And this will not only regenerate damaged nerves, but it'll regenerate damaged neurons in the brain. And they have people recovering from strokes using this technique.
That's very exciting. It'll be great to see that coming. Can stem cells divide too much so that they have a negative effect?
Well, if we talk about uncontrolled metabolism, the best example is a cancer cell where the metabolism has kind of gone crazy, and then those cells are going to damage healthy tissue, obviously. So Stanford University, if you go to their website, they have a definition of cancer as it pertains to stem cells. And it's that when you introduce something that is carcinogenic, let's say like a pesticide, You introduce this to a stem cell, it'll cause the stem cell to mutate and turn into a cancer cell. So the stem cell is not the issue. It's the foreign substance or the toxin that's inducing the stem cell to change. So because the human body has control mechanisms such as copper peptide for regulating stem cell activity, that's a completely natural process, and we're all alive today because that process works. It's as we age and the communication system breaks down, you can have tissue attack healthy tissue, such as in autoimmune disorders like arthritis.
Can the X39 patch be used if you're doing radiation only? So I'm not sure what that question was.
That would depend on the oncologist. And generally, oncologists don't like people to use antioxidants. And X39 definitely induces antioxidant activity in the body, because the idea is that the antioxidants can protect the cancer cells from damage. Years ago, I met a medical doctor in Mexico, and he had an 85% success rate at reversing cancer. And he did two things. One is he gave his patients IVs of glutathione. And this was for supporting immune function and for detoxification. So in other words, get the toxin that caused the cancer out of the body. The second thing that he did was he used a garlic extract. And this specifically is GE132, or germanium sesquioxide. And this was discovered in Japan. And GE132 prevents cancer cells from replicating. And they do this by interfering with the ability of the cancer cell to make telomerase and regenerate their telomeres. So in other words, giving a cancer patient GE132, after about 3 or 4 weeks, their cancer cells stop dividing. So if their immune function is working properly, then they can see remission of cancer. There's other things that are involved with it, but that's what he was doing with pretty great success. So in any case, with using any of these things, it's always up to the doctor. And my personal opinion about this is that people should be using antioxidants and natural compounds as their first line of defense.
And I know Dr. Schallenberger that you spoke about earlier also does a lot of stuff with working with cancer patients and helping them use natural products as part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So to that point, he'll use ozone therapy as a way to directly destroy the cancer cells, support the immune system. He'll use glutathione drips. He also uses, this is crazy if you haven't heard about this before, he gives his patients 60 milligrams a day of melatonin. So now normally, you go by melatonin, maybe it's 2.5 milligrams, 5 milligrams. Therapeutically, he's using 60 milligrams a day. And by the way, melatonin is also a very powerful antiviral, and it's been shown that melatonin will also destroy SARS-CoV-2. But why we didn't hear about that when there was actually a pandemic? Seems the pandemic's over now, so Vladimir Putin apparently cured COVID, right? So by starting the war. But yeah, so melatonin, very powerful antiviral, and I think it's a good tool to have along with other things.
Great. How about your liver? Your liver is incredibly important in terms of your overall health. Do these patches support liver function and health?
Absolutely. So liver is the most regenerative organ in the human body. There's been a number of fascinating studies with removing parts of the liver and having it regrow. The function of the liver is dependent upon a number of key nutrients, one of them being glutathione. So we want to elevate our glutathione to detoxify the liver. There are some things, of course, in naturopathic medicine for cleansing the liver, different types of diets. But basically, from the patch perspective, Aeon elevates a liver peptide. Glutathione is found in high concentrations in the liver. milk thistle, these types of herbs, silymarin, they'll elevate glutathione, there'll be glutathione precursors. So yeah, to support the overall health of the liver, regular program, keep a healthy diet, drink lots of water, elevate your glutathione.
Great. So if somebody is trying to reduce belly fat, can the patches or what combination of patches can assist with the other stuff they're doing?
Oh man, come to the convention in August. You'll be delighted at what I'm going to tell you. First of all, we saw with X49 that it does reduce belly fat. So that's the good news. I would go back to what we discussed earlier, which is have a proper diet, watch what you're eating, get your proper nutrition, supplement where necessary, be on a regular program of exercise, drink enough water, have your foundation, get proper rest, right? If we have the foundation, then using tools like X49 are going to help. With belly fat, as far as tools that we have available today, X49 will reduce belly fat when people exercise. That's what the studies show. I have been working on something else, and you're going to hear about it in August.
We have to
And
wait.
you'll love it. You'll love it.
Okay, August will be here before we know it, right?
It will. It's coming very soon.
Okay. Listen, are you able to give us the results of studies in humans about the diabetic neuropathy yet?
So the studies that we did on diabetic neuropathy were with our coil technology. And that study we did 2 studies with human beings. Both were open label with 15 people each. One study was on diabetic neuropathy. The other was on idiopathic neuropathy, meaning the peripheral nerves are damaged, but you don't know what the reason is why they're damaged. All 30 people, we were able to regenerate the peripheral nerves and reverse the diabetic neuropathy.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's a big clap for that. That's exciting.
So there is a huge opportunity and future ahead for PEMF and any type of magnetic therapy or light therapy. This is something that we would like to get to market. There's all regulatory hurdles that are associated with it. The technology is definitely going to show up in LifeWave to treat plants. As far as treating human beings, we can't get FDA approval to do that, not yet, but at least our members will be able to benefit from it.
That sounds great. How about diminished eye issues in terms of helping support eye health?
Yeah, so certainly in terms of our product, there are numerous third-party studies that show that glutathione and carnosine are very valuable antioxidants for supporting the overall health of the eyes. I would also use some of the other well-known nutrients like lutein, astaxanthin as oral supplements for supporting the health of the eyes. We've had members over the years reverse their nearsightedness with carnosine. And what they will do is place 2 carnosine patches on the forehead here and here above the center of the eye. And after about 30 days, they get dramatic improvements in their eyesight. This is dependent, though. You have to get rid of contact lenses and glasses.
Okay, so they're obviously doing that at night. They're not walking around during the day.
You'd be surprised at what some people do. Most people will do it at night, but there are some of our LifeWave members that are very enthusiastic and will wear them during the day there.
Cool. What about lungs? We haven't talked about lungs at all in terms of people who have, maybe diminished lung capacity, and there's the ability to bring the breath in and also to let the breath out. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I was actually being interviewed in Los Angeles quite a few years ago now, and the woman interviewing me was extraordinarily skeptical, and I happened to notice that her breathing was very heavy, and so I invited her to do a patch demo, and I applied the energy patches to the lung points in acupuncture on her wrists, and within about a minute, she said her entire breathing just opened up. Apparently, she had bronchitis and she felt much, much better. And after that, the interview was much better. So for the lungs, you could use the energy patches, applying them directly over the corner of the chest. This would be, if you want to apply it to an acupuncture point, it's called lung 1. But if not, you could just palpate with your index finger, find a point that's sensitive, and then apply the energy patches there, white on right, tan on left. Other patches like Aeon, Glutathione are generally supportive of the overall health of the lungs. Now, if someone, on that note, let's say someone had been a smoker for many years and they stopped smoking, the good news is we know with antioxidants, especially vitamin C, there's studies showing that vitamin C will reverse damage to the lungs as caused by cigarette smoking. So I'd recommend those people use an IV of, let's say, 10 grams of vitamin C once per week, supplement orally, and then use the glutathione patch and energy patches.
That sounds great. After anesthesia during surgeon, patient personality alters. Patient now exhibits rash, moody swings. Is there anything that would help combat that aggressiveness as they come out of anesthesia?
Wow, okay. Well, we obviously don't have any clinical studies on that. So anything that I would offer, I might speculate. Because X39 and Carnosine have shown an ability to improve cognitive function, that's where I might start. But I would say I'm not a medical doctor, and they would do it under a doctor's care to make sure there's no adverse effects. But that's where I might start.
Okay. And I know that we had a couple of questions around the spike proteins from the COVID vaccines, and what would your, advice be around that for people who've maybe taken the vaccine and wish they hadn't?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the way I would say this is, first, I am not an anti-vaxxer. I believe in science, and I also believe that ethically, the companies that create these products have a responsibility to present people with all of the information about their product before people use it. It's called informed consent. So they have a responsibility to do that. And based on 2 studies that we've done, the information that we have shows that what we've been told about the mRNA vaccines is not truthful. So I realize this can be controversial, but we did one webinar on this, and we did a pilot study with 15 people. And the objective was that members were asking us, are the patches safe to be used on someone that's been vaccinated? That's a fair question, and we didn't have the answer to it. So we set out to do a blood study, and using both dark field and bright field microscopy to see if there were any changes in the blood before and after using the patches with someone that had been vaccinated. And what we found in that initial pilot study was very alarming. We did this webinar with Dr. Brian Daly. Now, Dr. Daly is a medical doctor, and he's also a forensic medical specialist. He has been an expert witness in over 250 different court cases. So we hired him to evaluate our results so he could speak about them. And effectively, I was interviewing him on the webinar. And what we found is that people that had received the mRNA vaccine had elevated levels of inflammation. Now, this is not surprising. The problem, though, is that all of the 15 people had been vaccinated a minimum of 4 months prior to the blood draw. So in other words, the vaccine is supposed to produce an inflammatory response, but that's supposed to diminish after 2 weeks. What we found is that people that had been vaccinated 4 months ago still had an elevated inflammatory response. That was in 15 out of 15 people. The other thing that we found was that there was an elevated white blood cell count. So the immune system was hyperactive and reacting as if there was an infection present. And that was not normal. But the most alarming thing is the actual shape of the white blood cells had changed. And in some examples, the white blood cells had grown horns and tails. And they had a structure, Dr. Daly said, I've never seen this. In my 30 years as a medical doctor and a forensic medical examiner, I've never seen anything like this before. And so what you would be led to believe is that when you change the shape of something, you alter the function. So his conclusion was that the immune system was being impaired. So of course, now today, what we know is that there are risks of myocarditis as a result of taking the mRNA vaccine. And this study certainly seems to show that that is the case. We did a follow-up study that we're getting ready to present the data. This is with 50 people. And that study mirrors, the results of the study mirrors the first one. We were able to go a little further with this because we collected data on people that had gotten the booster shot and the impact that that had on the immune system, which is not good. So that's the negative stuff. So the people that have been vaccinated that made that choice, I would strongly encourage them to take supplements of a number of different antioxidants. One would be NAC, another would be R-lipoic acid, another would be PQQ to increase mitochondrial count in the cell. Take a broad spectrum of antioxidants that are going to reduce the inflammatory response, the residual inflammatory response that's there as a result of the vaccine. And I think that increases the likelihood that someone will be able to be okay. But we can't say that with a lot of confidence.
But we do know it's not dangerous for someone who has had the vaccine to use the patches.
Oh, yeah. So what we showed, the only thing that I can say is that we took the blood draw, we applied the patches after 2 weeks, and then after we measured again after 8 weeks. And what I can say is that the patches are definitely safe for people that have been vaccinated.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. What about people who are using specific frequency devices, such as like the Healy or the Beamer or any of those kind of devices? Is it safe to use those with the patches at the same time?
They should be complementary. So we did, in fact, a study where we combined, we did the study in France where we combined our PEMF therapy with the patches, and we showed that there was a synergistic effect. So if you're using a device like the Beamer or the Healy, there shouldn't be any issues with doing that.
Okay. And this one is timely. And it's like now we've got a whole bunch of people who are hooked. We don't want to be without our patches. Is there any problem in terms of being able to continue to create them with the different supply chain issues that are going around the world?
Yeah. So we have plenty of raw materials.
Yay.
So once the war in the Ukraine started or Ukraine, I say the Ukraine, sorry. Once the war in Ukraine started and it was obvious, we know gas prices are going up. This is affecting everything. We made sure to order additional raw materials so that we would not have any shortages in being able to make the patches. So we're totally good.
That's good news.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, well, pretty much that was, believe it or not, all the questions that we had today. And David, I just really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you for spending all the time with us that you have. I know your schedule is very, very busy.
Yeah.
And a big round of applause for David Schmidt.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Connie. Thank you.
You all have been the most gracious audience. Thank you so much for spending the morning with us. Let me see what time it is. So half the day with us. So we will be able to
Thank
stick
you.
around for
Thank
about
you.
another half hour in here before we have to clear the room. So if you have any further questions, anything during our last break that you didn't get answered or you need help with, get with the person that invited you and they'll seek out some help. And if you're here on your own, come find one of us and we'll help you out. Have a great day.